Imagine for a moment that you are standing right in the middle of a vibrant, bustling street in Egypt.
Oh, that's a great image.
Right. The sun is shining, the air is just thick with the smell of roasted meats and sweet pastries, and it's the holiday of Eid al-Adha.
A massive celebration.
Exactly. You look around and the atmosphere is just electric. Families are gathering in their absolute best clothes. Public parks are completely overflowing with picnic blankets and kids laughing.
And down by the water, you've got those felucca boats.
Yes, the Nile River is just dotted with these beautifully decorated boats taking people out for rides. There is this palpable sense of joy, of release and community celebration.
It really is the ultimate picture of a society at rest. People are enjoying a deeply significant cultural milestone and just stepping away from the daily grind.
But here's the thing that makes this scenario so fascinating. Just out of sight, operating right beneath the surface of all that festivity, a massive, highly sophisticated security apparatus has just been shifted into maximum overdrive.
Oh, absolutely maximum.
And, we were talking about a deployment that completely blankets the country. So today we are taking a deep dive into a fascinating stack of sources that reveal how this festive security deployment is actually the front line of a much, much larger geopolitical operation.
Yeah, we're going to unpack Egypt's sweeping deployment of security measures designed to protect public infrastructure. And we will evaluate how they're combating what the sources describe as emerging ideological and physical threats.
And then we'll zoom out, right?
Exactly. We'll compare these street-level efforts to the broader regional strategies dealing with really intense migration pressures across the Mediterranean.
It's a sprawling topic. But before we get into the weeds, I need to explicitly state something very important to you, our listener.
Right, the disclaimer.
Yes. The sources we are diving into today contain highly politically charged perspectives regarding refugees, migration, and cultural movements. As your guides, we are not taking sides or endorsing these viewpoints.
Not at all.
Our goal is strictly to unpack and impartially report on the claims made in the source material so you can understand the conversation happening on the ground.
That is a crucial baseline. Our job is analysis, not editorializing.
Okay, let's unpack this. It's just a staggering contrast.
Yeah.
You have this joyous, chaotic, holiday atmosphere. On one hand, kids playing in fountains, and on the other, this incredibly strict, high-tech security grid locking into place.
It really feels like two completely different realities occupying the exact same space.
Right, like if you're just a tourist walking through Cairo, you probably wouldn't even notice the invisible architecture of surveillance tracking you.
And that highlights a fundamental shift in how we understand modern state security. Security today is no longer just about managing crowds or, breaking up a scuffle at a parade.
Yeah, it's bigger than that.
Much bigger. It is about protecting the very physical and historical infrastructure of a nation.
So let's look at exactly what that posture entails, because the sources go into some really fascinating detail about the Ministry of Interior Security deployment.
They do. They describe the readiness level as being raised to the maximum level.
Which, I have to admit, sounds a bit like an action movie cliche.
It does sound like that.
Like, go to maximum readiness. But what does that actually look like on the streets of Alexandria or Cairo on a Tuesday afternoon?
Well, according to the sources, this maximum level is heavily defined by its technological integration. We are way beyond the era of just putting more cops on street corners.
Right, hoping their presence deters crime.
Exactly. The core of this operation relies on an extensive use of modern electronic monitoring systems. Security directorates across the regional governorates are running these dedicated operations rooms.
And these aren't just isolated bubbles, right?
No, not at all. These regional hubs are directly linked in real time to a massive central Ministry of Interior command center.
Wow.
They are using advanced tracking devices and expansive camera networks to monitor traffic and public spaces constantly.
It makes me think of a central nervous system.
Oh, that's a good analogy.
Yeah, like you have millions of sensory inputs out there. The cameras, the tracking devices, the patrols, acting like nerve endings.
Sending signals back to the brain.
Right. And the brain's job in that central room is to process all of that data instantly to keep this giant festive body moving safely.
What's fascinating here is how that nervous system extends into a very complex physical deployment. The sources detail a mix of stationary and mobile security checkpoints.
So you've got the permanent roadblocks everyone can see.
Yeah, the concrete barriers, but you also have units that are completely fluid. They move wherever the data tells them to go.
And it's not just uniformed officers, is it?
No, they specifically mention investigative, plainclothes elements operating silently within the crowds.
Just blending right in with the families having picnics.
Exactly. And together they cover a massive array of targets. Public parks, archaeological sites, cinemas, the major highways linking the inland governorates to the coasts.
Because everyone goes to the beach for Eid.
Right. And mass transit, too, like metro stations and trains.
They even explicitly mentioned the Nile River, which I thought was wild.
Heavily patrolled.
Yeah, they use specialized river police to check boat safety and enforce passenger capacities. They're leaving no stone unturned.
They really aren't, but there is one specific detail in the plan that speaks to the psychology of all this.
Oh, the female police officers.
Yes. The sources specifically highlight the inclusion of female police elements in this maximum readiness plan.
I caught that too. The text states their role is to ensure rapid response. But then it adds this caveat about considering the humanitarian dimension.
The humanitarian dimension and reflecting a civilized image of the Egyptian police.
Which is such a layered phrase.
It really is. What's happening here is the state is consciously crafting the optics of its own security.
Because a massive phalanx of riot police can sour a festive mood pretty quickly.
Exactly. By explicitly highlighting female officers and tying them to terms like civilized image, the ministry is communicating that this apparatus is modern, empathetic, and sophisticated.
It softens the edge of that maximum level rhetoric. But I want to go back to my nervous system analogy for a second.
Sure.
How does moving from traditional policing to this highly electronic network surveillance actually change the nature of public safety for the average citizen?
Well, it changes the entire paradigm from reactive to proactive.
Meaning they don't just wait for a crime to happen.
Right. Traditional policing often relies on responding after the fact. A network surveillance system allows the state to see macro patterns in real time.
So they can spot a bottleneck in a metro station before it becomes a dangerous crush.
Exactly. For the average citizen, your safety relies less on a cop being physically near you and much more on the invisible, continuous monitoring of the space you're in.
It's safety through omniscience. But as we move into the next phase of the sources, we start to see exactly why the state feels the desperate need for this level of surveillance.
Yeah, the tone of the sources shifts dramatically here.
It really does. Because the threat they're facing isn't just about managing traffic. It's a direct physical assault on the country's actual infrastructure.
They pivot to describing widespread vandalism and outright theft of public property.
The text highlights these viral social media videos showing individuals whom the sources identify as refugees or foreign guests, literally stealing electricity cables from street poles.
In broad daylight.
In broad daylight.
Yeah.
And active power cables, no less.
And it goes beyond just electricity cables. The claims indicate these groups are cutting and stealing heavy iron fences from public bridges.
Wow.
And the source is very careful to frame how they view this. They don't see these as desperate acts of survival.
No, they call it a profession.
Right, a profession carried out by highly organized, divided gangs.
Okay, I have to step in and push back slightly on the logistics of this.
Go ahead.
We just spent 20 minutes talking about this impenetrable, omniscient surveillance network. How feasible is it to actually protect thousands of miles of cables and fences if people are sawing through them in broad daylight?
That is the exact logistical nightmare the security forces are facing. Surveillance isn't a force field.
Right. A camera can watch it happen, but it can't jump off the pole and arrest you.
Exactly. It can record the crime, maybe track the getaway truck, but infrastructure is inherently exposed. You simply cannot put a police officer on every single street lamp.
Especially in a country of over 100 million people.
It's impossible. And this vulnerability is where you really see the deep frustration conveyed in the source material.
Because the economic argument they make is intense.
Very intense. The source argues this is a severe blow to the Egyptian public. The infrastructure being destroyed cost billions over the past 10 years.
And they emphasize that it was funded by citizens who endured high prices and taxes.
Right. For a developing economy, infrastructure is a hard-won national investment. It's not just concrete and wire.
It's the physical manifestation of progress.
Exactly. So seeing a bridge sawed apart feels like the nation's future is being stolen. This specific type of crime necessitates that extreme maximum readiness posture we discussed.
It's like you work your whole life to build a house, and someone is pulling the valuable copy right out of your walls while you sit there.
That's a very apt way to put it.
But the sources don't stop at physical infrastructure. Here's where it gets really interesting.
We shift from physical to historical infrastructure.
Yeah, we are moving into this massive ideological challenge regarding the Afrocentric movement.
And the source doesn't mince words.
Not at all. They allege a deliberate, diabolical plot of soft occupation,
Aimed at taking over Egypt without a physical battle.
The central claim is that this movement is using the digital front line, specifically calling out Google search engines.
They claim Google is pushing fake images of Egyptian kings portrayed as black, along with fabricated historical information.
All designed to support Afrocentric ideas.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine your own country's founding history being algorithmically contested in real time online.
This raises an important question about how digital platforms are now perceived as battlefields for national identity.
Exactly. Like, is it a conspiracy of Google engineers or just how search optimization works?
The source frames it as a conscious plot, but algorithms are driven by engagement. If a movement constantly tags images a certain way and links them, the engine pushes that to the top.
But to the authors of this source, the mechanism doesn't matter. The result is their history being rewritten on a global billboard.
And they break this plot down into two phases. Phase 1 is proving Black Africans are the original owners of Egyptian civilization.
Which is the digital groundwork.
Right. And Phase 2 is using that narrative to claim ownership of the actual land today.
Meaning they use it to encourage and justify massive refugee migration into Egypt.
They're arguing the cultural theory is just a Trojan horse for demographic replacement.
And the terminology they use is explosive.
Yeah.
They explicitly compare this to the Second Balfour Declaration.
Which carries massive historical weight.
Absolutely. For anyone unfamiliar, the 1917 Balfour Declaration was Britain supporting a Jewish national home in Palestine. In the Arab world, it's viewed as the ultimate sin of colonial land partition.
A foreign power drawing lines on a map.
Right. So by calling this the Second Balfour Declaration, they're elevating an internet debate to an existential threat to Egyptian sovereignty.
It shows that controlling your history online is viewed as vital to national security. The source cites English-speaking video clips discussing the infiltration of Egypt, claiming Africa is for everybody.
Africa is for everybody.
Yeah.
Wow. If you're an Egyptian citizen already feeling the economic squeeze, seeing your infrastructure scrapped, and then you see videos calling your borders illegitimate.
You can see why they feel surrounded on all fronts.
And to fully grasp the weight of that, we have to zoom out to the macro level. Because none of this happens in a vacuum. Egypt is sitting right in the middle of a massive regional pressure cooker.
The source cites a French-language analysis predicting the sub-Saharan African population will double.
Double.
Yes, to nearly 2 billion by the year 2050.
2 billion people in less than 3 decades. That is a seismic demographic shift.
It is, and the source claims Europe has adopted a defensive plan to protect itself from this demographic tidal wave.
By actively trying to turn North African countries into a buffer zone.
Exactly. Making countries like Egypt and Tunisia the alternative homeland to keep migrants from reaching Europe.
Okay, I have to offer some pushback on the framing here.
Let's hear it.
While the numbers are undeniably massive, does framing this exclusively as a tidal wave or a security threat risk blinding us to the severe humanitarian crises driving these people to move in the first place?
That is a crucial, critical distinction. The source is adopting a heavily securitized defensive lens. It focuses entirely on the impact on the receiving state.
Leaving out the desperate push factors like war and famine.
Right. But synthesizing the geopolitical reality they describe, you see the buffer zone dynamic at play. Wealthy northern Mediterranean countries are relying on North African nations to act as a geopolitical shield.
Outsourcing the crisis.
Exactly, which creates immense economic and social friction in places like Egypt and Tunisia.
And the source contrasts Egypt's situation with Tunisia, right?
Yes. They highlight Tunisia's hardline stance. Tunisia completely closed the door to registering refugees.
Wow, completely.
Completely. They refused to be a land of settlement or transit and demanded Europe take responsibility.
The source also mentioned Tunisia warned of internal networks colluding with external ones.
Right. And the source uses Tunisia as a warning for Egypt. They argue North Africa is just in the first wave of this shift.
And with Tunisia pushing back and shutting its doors, the pressure just redirects.
The pressure on Egypt is mounting exponentially.
Like plugging a leak in a pipe, the water finds the next weakest point. So we've got physical threats, ideological threats, and now this massive regional demographic pressure.
Which brings us to the final section. The specific legal and systemic solutions being demanded by local thought leaders in response to all this.
Right. Driven by these perceived threats, Egyptian intellectuals are demanding a massive overhaul of asylum policy. They want the collective return of all refugees.
Not just the ones breaking the law, everyone.
And they outline this in what they call the 6 principles. Let's go through them because they're breathtaking in scope.
They really are a blueprint for a fortress state.
Okay, Principle 1, deport all refugees. Principle 2, permanently close the door to asylum. Principle 3, cancel the law allowing naturalization through property ownership.
It's a total reversal of integration.
Principle 4, cancel the law allowing foreigners to own real estate. Principle 5, replace foreign property ownership with a system of rent or usufruct.
The right to use but not own.
And finally, Principle 6, close the UNHCR headquarters in Egypt.
The UN Refugee Agency.
Yeah. So what does this all mean? To me, it's like pulling up the drawbridge and filling in the moat of a castle.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the extremity of these demands is staggering. Closing a UN agency's headquarters is a massive, highly unusual diplomatic step.
It's essentially saying the international rules aren't working, so we're opting out.
Exactly. And looking at the usufruct principle, by legally severing the connection between migration and permanent settlement, they ensure temporary status across generations.
So no matter how successful your business is, you never truly have a legal stake in the soil. It directly counters that Second Balfour Declaration anxiety. If you can't own the land, you can't claim it.
These 6 principles reveal the sheer depth of domestic anxiety regarding national sovereignty and resource scarcity. They feel threatened on every conceivable front.
Which brings us full circle. We started out looking at a festive holiday, people riding boats on the Nile, and this high-tech police force operating at maximum readiness.
And now we understand why that central nervous system is humming with such intensity.
Right. It expanded from stolen electricity cables to algorithmic culture wars on Google.
To sweeping demographic projections for 2050.
And finally, demands to completely rewrite Egypt's legal relationship with the outside world. It really shows how interconnected everything is. Local everyday security is deeply entangled with massive global migrations and digital information wars.
Security today is deeply, conceptually infrastructural.
Which leaves us with a final provocative thought for you, the listener, to ponder on your own. If a nation's physical borders can be guarded by high-tech cameras and its streets secured by massive police deployments.
But its historical narrative is being contested on global search engines.
Exactly. Where does a country's true border actually lie in the 21st century?
It's a boundary that is becoming infinitely harder to define.
And maybe much harder to defend.